Now let's talk about the fight, man, because like you said, this is I mean, your guys' skills alone can promote this. So just to kind of recap a little bit, you're 15-5 in the UFC with 13 finishes. You fought guys like Bilal Muhammad, you got a knockout win over him. You fought Leon Edwards already. You didn't win, but you know he's a champion right now, so that's got to give you some confidence, right? And you fought other guys too, like Mike Perry, Jalen Turner. I mean, you got a crazy list. Your recent win over Rafael dos Anjos. So how does it make you feel, man, just kind of knowing like you've got this ton of experience against veterans in the game and people who are a champion right now? Even Bilal is about to probably contend for the belt next.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a great, moment to be fighting, and with all my experience, so I do have the skill. I've been training for so many years, trying to develop all my game, but I feel like the experience right now is here. Now I really have all these fights against many kind of different styles and opponents. I fought shorter guys, taller guys, wrestlers, grapplers, strikers, all kinds of different opponents. And I definitely think that this helps me a lot for this fight because Ian, he's a young guy. He doesn't have as many fights. That obviously like is less experience for him, but it's also hard to make a read. You don't know what kind of different tools he can bring into a fight. So I think that this experience counts a lot for me, for me to just to be ready for a guy that's young, hungry, and is going to go out there and try to take me out. So I feel like my experience can help me in this fight for sure.
Right. And are you kind of looking at this as like, you tell me, is it the biggest fight of your life, or because you fought some other crazy fighters in the past? Like, how are you looking at this, I guess, pressure wise, if you will?
I mean, I think every fight, next fight for me is the most important one, is the most important of my life, just because, since the beginning of the UFC, when I started fighting, I've been in a move forward. I did have some setbacks, but the setbacks were like, let's say, challenges that I had to overcome, but I'm still, trucking towards that title fight eventually and being the champion of the division. So I feel like always my next fight is this most important fight because it's moving a step closer to that title. So yeah, for sure, I think that this is the most important fight right now. But it's not something that gets, like, I don't feel the pressure. I think I feel much more motivation and kind of like it really hypes me up to go in there and to put on a good fight, to show everybody all the skill that I've been developing, to fight against a guy like Ian that so many people have the eyes on him. I said like he has a lot of hype, but it's not just because of whatever he talks. He is a great fighter. He is very skilled. And that motivates me, because I want to fight against the best so I can show that I am the best. And I think that's what I get from this fight, not much pressure in that way. I think that even like, I don't know, even if you could say it's pressure, I think the pressure motivates me in a way. It really gets me excited to fight, to train, to have my training camp, especially after so many fights.
Yeah. Has it always been that way for you, or was there a point in your career where that switched? Like maybe I would probably guess it might be Ultimate Fighter, but you tell me.
Yeah, you would be right. Definitely. I think that before the UFC in my first fights, had sometimes, struggles with getting nervous, with feeling the pressure. And I think it was a lot of like just not being sure if I was cut out to be in the UFC. Then I had my career outside. I trained with a lot of guys back then in the Black Zillions and guys that were in the UFC. They kind of, showed me that I did have the skills. And once I got to the Ultimate Fighter and then eventually got to the UFC, that kind of like turned into being motivated. After I got in the UFC, that's when I really realized, okay, I got what it takes to fight with these guys, to hang, in this, at this level. And from here, it's all train hard, get better, evolve, and keep on fighting and being excited for this.
Right. And like, I guess if you're looking at it from Ian Garry's perspective a little bit, I don't know if he's had that fight yet against like a guy who's kind of like a top dog in a way. So I think this is the first one for him. So who knows if he's kind of battling some of those nerves you used to deal with early in your career,
Yeah, I mean, possibly, I got to the UFC, I was 23 years old. And after a few years, my first fight was a loss. And after that, I picked up a lot of wins. And when I look back, I kind of like, I think it was fortunate, something we don't want to lose. But the fact that I lost fights before getting into the UFC, that kind of got me ready to deal with this in the UFC. And instead of being nervous or dismotivated when I was facing a tough challenge, it kind of showed me that I can always build myself back up. I can always get better. And Ian being an undefeated fighter, yeah, he could maybe, have second thoughts in the sense like, am I ready to face this guy? But at the same time, I know that he is a very confident guy. So I don't know. I never try to predict a guy that is going to be mentally weak. I predict that he's going to be mentally strong and ready to fight the best fight possible.
Right, right. And Ian is a confident young man, undefeated, and that goes a long way with your psyche. You know, he's never tasted defeat.